Hi there. Why go back? This is going to be a little bit different today. Going to be a little heavier than what I would like to be in my inspiring and energetic self. But I've decided that there is someone or somebody's who needs to hear this, and I want to not be so comfortable in wanting to be liked. I want to make an impact. So why go back? What am I talking about? Sometimes we are so accustomed to the term or the phrase, don't look back. That's the past. Leave the past. Let the past be the past. And in my Christian circles, forget not the former things. I'm doing a new thing. And while that is a word and is the truth, sometimes we need to go back in order to move forward. So I'm going to share this with you, and it's been something that I've been thinking about. And again, I'm sharing it because there is someone or someone's who need to hear this. I did say someone's. In our American history, historically, I'm a black and brown. I'm a black woman in these here United States. Historically, when Africans were brought into America, they were brought in enslaved, and they were not treated as human beings, but they were treated as property and chattel, meaning they were treated like animals. Why am I saying this in the question, why go back? There has been now research that shares how intergenerationally trauma can be passed down from generation to the next generation. And while I've sat in different classes and I've sat in different research or read different research about it, typically it's talking about trauma where it has impacted like abuse and things of that nature, which there's a lot of forms of abuse. But typically the act and the scenario of what happened historically in Black and brown communities, I haven't always heard it mentioned and spoken about, even in Christian circles or cultures, to make the point that there may be healing that needs to be done intergenerationally from the trauma of slavery. While I know that may be big for some people, what I understand in some of our Christian circles and my Christian experience has been the repeating and repeated cycle of things that have happened and then are not addressed, because guess what? That's the cycle attached to the horrific scenario and the horrific story and the horrific events of slavery. Let me give you an example. A lot of times I've heard, and you may have even said, well, Black people just don't. Black people don't know how. Black people, you know how Black people are. And I've had to wrestle and sit with that now as I am going into a new dimension and a new decade of my life soon. And I thought and I said, well, how would we have known to do certain things if, I'm going to take the example, why go back? There have been documented cases where men and women who were married had to get permission, one, to be married, and then they lived on different plantations. How did a family unit come together when the father had to be on another part of a different plantation, and then the mother had to be on another plantation? And then going back to see that there were just times that the mother or the father had to minimize their child's genius or who they were to protect them from being sold or being separated. So a lot of times when we talk about in the Black community where we don't have space or we're not given space to communicate, I'm going to go back, and I know this is a stretch for some people, but this is just some of the things that I've been thinking of, where there were horrific lynchings and beatings, rapes, and things that happened to Black and brown people. No one could say anything. For saying something could get you killed, could endanger you. So let's go back. So if a grandmother learned that, what did they teach if they were able to teach their daughter and their son to be quiet for fear of being killed or being tortured or being lynched? Remember, trauma can be held in our body and then it can be transferred on to generation to generation. So we're talking about slavery, and then we talk about, and I'm not going consecutively in order, but let's just go to the Jim Crow laws and things that have happened in the South and in the North. The things that we have learned from a mindset of fear and things that have not been addressed, because even when people knew that there were horrific things going on, nobody could say anything because it wasn't believed. I say that now because as I've been going through healing personally, and this is where I hope someone can get something for you. There have been questions that you have, and unfortunately, there have been horrific things that have happened to you and your family, possibly. And I'm not defending the abuser. I am understanding now that if there isn't a going back to heal, and when I say going back to heal, I mean addressing that there was a wrong that was done, and it just has been cycling over and over and over and over to the 21st century. I say it specifically because as a believer in Christ Jesus, I have sat through deliverance services. I have heard about deliverances that need to be healed and need to be taking place. But there's always seemed to be a disconnect. So I am going to provide you with something that has helped me tremendously. The book is called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. I'm not just reading the book. I got this information, it's now 9 years ago, almost 9 years ago. And chapter 3 talks about going back in order to go forward, breaking the power of the past. It says emotionally healthy spirituality is about reality, not denial or illusion. It's about embracing God's choice to birth us into a particular family, in a particular place, at a particular moment in history. The choice granted to us certain opportunities and gifts. It also handed us a certain amount of what I call emotional baggage into our life, into our journey through life. For some of us, the load was minimal. For others, it turned out to be a heavy one to carry. So the reason why it's important in a way for us to go back in order to go forward is because if we never stop and look at what was behind and back there for us, we never realize that some of the things that we are dealing with have nothing to do with just today. It has something to do with what we had in our past. I sit because I know some people, that's just too much to bear. That's too much to bring into account, and there's too much to deal with. And this is what I want to offer after hearing time and time again the same scenario. The voice of Black and brown people that has been minimized, that has been ostracized, that has been dismissed, and has been objectified. Think about how that continues on in the 21st century. And there's never been a point in history that I can remember personally where there's been a focus on the healing of that. I know that's big, but this is why I am offering the gift to go back so that you can move forward. In the last 8 years, I have been looking at things from a different lens, and I'm not so concerned with everybody's approval of what I've been coming to as a conclusion and as truth, because I've realized there are certain people who are still stuck, who are still bound, and who are still in pain that are telling me and encouraging me or teaching me what or what not to do. So I have one thing that I want to share, and I'm taking my time, and I know videos, you're not supposed to go this slow, but I'm not going fast intentionally because sometimes we need to slow down so that we can go back. I'm going to ask you, what are you tired of going over the same thing over and over? It's the same verse. It's the same song to a different verse. Or it's 2025, and if you could stop and be honest with yourself, this kind of looks like 2015. Maybe different players, maybe a different space, maybe you're in a different job, maybe you're with a different person, maybe you're contemplating on not being with another person or breaking up with somebody else. But if you look back and you put the pieces of each of the components, it's the same song, different verse. I had to look at that. I had a role and I paused. It's been several years now, and I was just like, wait a minute. A person that I worked for, she reminded me of a cycle that I have seen in other parts of my life, where there is a person who has power, or a person who's respected, but not really liked, but they get the job done. Or they're the person that people can count on. And guess what? I started seeing the same cycle. People don't particularly care for the person, but they're not going to say anything to address that person's behavior or that person's lack of social skills. That's what I would call it. And while the person is talked about, I don't ever think the person knew directly that they were not as highly regarded as what they were attempting to be. I had to go back. I had to start looking at things. I was like, wait a minute, this seems similar, eerie similar. Like I'm in an environment, I'm around people, but we're not really for each other. Going back so that we can break cycles, break patterns, break habits is very important. So I'm going to end with this. Emotionally healthy spirituality involves embracing God's choice to birth us into a particular family, in a particular place, at a particular moment. So, like I read before, where we are in our lives is because of the time and space we were born into the world. But there are times that we need to go back so that we can look at things from a perspective of clarity, humility, truth, and honesty, so that we can truly decide how we want to move forward. So I have this series. These are the older books for emotionally healthy spirituality. And I have been going through different places in a workbook that I have put out this year called Healthy by Design. This actually has been a phenomenal resource for me, and I'm really slowing down to share this with you because there is no quick fix in order to go back, in order for you to be able to go forward. And I want you to know it's worth the journey going back, but you don't have to go at it alone. So I want you to know, in order for sometimes you to be able to go forward, it's imperative that you go back, that you look at, that you take stock, that you allow yourself the reparenting if necessary. Allow yourself the therapy, the coaching, the community where you need to heal from things that only you will know once you go back and face spaces and places in your life, in your heart, in your soul, in your mind, that is possible for you to be able to move forward. I am a living witness. You would not be here with me recording on the other side of this camera if I would not have taken the courage. It was courageous, y'all, because it wasn't easy. It hasn't been easy, and I don't want to promise you that it will be easy. What I will promise you with full confidence, that is completely worth it. So, going back to move forward, the Emotionally Healthy Spirituality workbook, and they have a new information. I don't have my new right here, but I wanted you to know the move of going back to go forward is worth it. That's it.